Well, hello there. You're watching the press preview. A first look then at what is on the front pages as they arrive. In the next, 20 minutes or so, we'll be seeing what's making the headlines with Nancy Fielder, editor of The Star, and Mark Wallace, chief executive of Conservative Home. Welcome to both of you. Great to see you. Lots to pack in, as you might imagine, so let's check out the front pages. Telegraph then outlines the Prime Minister's roadmap out of lockdown and counts down 118 days until freedom, the paper tells us. The Times says the end is in sight. The 21st of June, the provisional end date for all restrictions, makes the splash for the Metro. Midsummer's dream is their headline. The Financial Times says Johnson insists the end is in sight with summer targets to end COVID curbs. The Guardian has the same story, with the Prime Minister promising spring and summer will be incomparably better than life in lockdown. The Mirror says the dates outlined by Boris Johnson today will be the best days of our lives, while the Eye sets out the plan as 4 steps to freedom. The Sun seizing on Boris Johnson's cautious approach with the headline, "The Wait Escape, the slow road to unlockdown." The Daily Express says Britain is on a one-way road to freedom. The Daily Star has its own distinctive take on today's announcement from the Prime Minister. And the Sheffield Star, Nancy's paper, simply says, chuffed to bits. Well, chuffed to bits, midsummer's dream, the Metro then we're starting with. Nancy, data, not dates, and there we are, a whole range of dates for us to get excited about. We can't avoid them, can we?
No, we can't. It's all about these dates. And it's interesting, they're already looking forward to summer, but I think most of us are just really looking forward to 2 weeks when the kids can get back to school finally after what feels like a lifetime for most of them. And we can start to see a friend or two, let alone the end of the month when things get even better. So I'm a little bit sceptical about looking forward to June and July at this stage, but I am over the moon, as I think we all are, that we've finally got a plan. I mean, who knew we had a Prime Minister who could produce a sensible plan led by scientists?
Interesting, yes. I think for me it's 2 households getting together. It's been difficult for the kids that you can't see a whole family, and that's been since the rule of 6 on September the 14th. So we've all got something to look forward to, which is brilliant news. Whether it should be June the 21st, as the Metro says, life goes back to normal, is another matter. The cases are still high, aren't they, Mark?
They are, but they're moving, they're moving in the right direction. I've got to say I'm particularly excited about the 21st of June because it's not just the day the nation gets unlocked at last, it's also my wedding anniversary. So that's going to be an even bigger anniversary party, although I imagine it's also going to be quite difficult to find a restaurant to book anywhere.
We'll all just chat about what bits we're looking forward to, shall we? But let's go to the Eye now, Nancy. They say 4 steps to freedom, those 4 key dates. Is there anything that surprises you in the list? For example, when hairdressers might be able to get near people, for example. What did you make of all of it?
Do you know what actually genuinely is taken by surprise is that it's really long term, and it just seems such a really good plan. I mean, we've obviously spoken to people who aren't over the moon about it, who don't think it's fast enough, but we've all been there, haven't we? We've been there and got the T-shirt from What Happens When You Rush, and this feels like the opposite of this. So look, we would love this to end much more quickly, but I think this is really, really sensible. And I think the hairdressers can plan. Even teachers have got 2 weeks now. I mean, we know everything's not clear with what's going to happen with the exams, and lots of children are kind of working towards something with a moving target. But actually getting the schools open is the big key thing. And as you said, you know, getting together with your nearest and dearest. I've had family babies born and we've not even met them yet. So all those things are really, really exciting for everybody.
Yes, the Sun with a socking great padlock, calling it the Wait Escape, the slow road to unlockdown, 48 days until a pint outside, a haircut or a gym visit, 83 days until a pint in a pub or fans back in stadiums, 118 days until all restrictions are lifted at last. So tell me, Mark, why the cautious approach from the Prime Minister? Why does it seem such a change from last time? Has science won, or is it just the volume of misery and deaths that has prompted him to think about how we do this?
Well, it seems to me that there are 3 main reasons for the degree of caution you see here. First is, yes, frankly, they and we and all of us have suffered the downsides and the ill effects to a very severe degree of unlocking some things too quickly. And also the government, of course, has had the political experience of over-promising and then being forced to under-deliver by events in the past. The second element is that they want to have a gap between each of these changes in order to be able to gather new data to see what the actual effect of each change is. And remember, there's still the different variants and so on floating around, which work in different ways. And the third element is, of course, that the vaccination programme continues, and we know that it's been very effective. We know that uptake's been really high among those offered it so far, but there's some sign that the scientists are edging on the kind of slightly pessimistic side about vaccine uptake among some lower groups, which could, of course, itself increase the risk of reducing restrictions. So there's some leeway in there, but I think it's understandable where the caution comes from.
Yes, and we're also dealing with this new variant, the Kent variant, with its increased transmissibility, aren't we, B117. To The Guardian then, Nancy, on top of the dates and the metrics for measuring whether we can progress to the next level, we also learned today that there are to be 4 reviews. For example, how long we need to maintain social distancing and face mask wearing. And The Guardian points out, in a signal of how different the new normal will be from pre-pandemic life, COVID status certificates are being considered to help businesses reopen and no doubt get people on their holidays, possibly if that happens. What did you think of those reviews that are underway and the prospect of us having to carry around some proof that we've either been tested or vaccinated?
I actually think right now people just want a way out, and if this is what it takes, then this is what we need to do. I think what Mark's already referred to about the gaps between each step is really, really sensible. And while we are all really excited, and while the vaccine programme has been a big success, there are variants, and you've mentioned one, but we don't know how they're going to develop. So we've just got to be really sensible about it. And he's been quite clear that actually if things go wrong, we won't be able to stick to this. But I think today we can enjoy it and we can look forward. And if a certificate is what you need to be able to go on holiday, then surely most of us would want that, because we're all so desperate for things to be better and so desperate to get away a little bit.
Yeah, we've got your paper, The Star in Sheffield there, chuffed to bits, you're saying. How did this go down in Westminster then? How did the members of the Tory COVID recovery group take the news? Mark,
well,
I'm going to ask, sorry, that will ask Mark that. I'll come back to you about your front, Nancy, apologies.
Well, you can see that there is pressure from parts of the Conservative backbenches in particular to go faster on this. There are reports that there's some pressure from within the government to go faster than this. And it is understandable why. The fact is that this has been as well as a disastrous medical and health event, it's been a disastrous economic event. And there are people, businesses and jobs, families and individuals, particularly people actually living by themselves, who are suffering really badly through all of this. And it's understandable, I think, that people are seeking a way to try and get out faster. The important thing is, firstly, that this has to be based on the evidence. And the second thing is, the government equally has to do the right thing in terms of demonstrating that it is studying if there's any unexpected good news that comes through. The fact is, if we continue to get good news about vaccine efficacy, if the rollout continues to go ahead of time, if uptake is higher than people expect, then I think it would be reasonable for Tory MPs to ask the government to take that into account as to whether some of these dates can be brought forward. But we've seen they're going to be cautious about it.
Yes, and your paper then, Nancy, the emptiness of the high street is writ large on your front page. But you say big questions from bar owners and teaching unions. And certainly there have been some criticisms or concerns raised about all schools going back. And some head teachers already suggesting if they do have to test pupils twice a week, then they won't be ready to get it all done on one day. What are you hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're hearing from head teachers. It's a massive operation for them. My local school's been sort of asking for volunteers so that they can be up and ready and they can be doing the testing. But there's all sorts of things to take into account. The children have fallen so far behind. Everybody at the disadvantaged children have fallen further behind. And now we're looking at all secondary school children wearing masks. There's just so much to get their heads around. But also throwing everybody back in one go, when I'm not sure that's quite what teachers are expecting, does make us understandably a little bit nervous. But hopefully we've got that grace period afterwards where we can see that it works before we move on to the next step. In terms of the pubs, a lot of pubs have tiny, tiny gardens in Sheffield, and many of them saying to us it's just not worth their while opening until they can open properly. And they're really, really hoping that government support is there and backs them up so they can get to the date when they're allowed to be back to normal.
Yeah, it's sort of urban versus rural for the benefits of reopening pub gardens, isn't it? Very difficult for many in city centres. And what about the prospects, do you think, Mark, as we go forward? Looking at other newspapers like The Times, for example, let's just see their front page. The end is in sight, and The Telegraph talking about 118 days to freedom, effectively. Do people really believe that, do you think?
I think people are extremely hopeful of it, and I think there are a lot of positive signs pointing in that direction. As I say, the vaccine rollout, the vaccine efficacy numbers, the studies keep coming back in a surprisingly positive way. The obvious overall performance of the national statistics in terms of the pandemic. It is still, I think, starting to dawn on all of us that just as last spring when we started to try to grapple with how long this might last, I think a lot of us hope that it might be over by now. Equally, it is starting to dawn on all of us that there may yet be things like vaccine passports for travel, or for that matter, even requests of masks and that kind of thing after this date. And that's still something that's quite unclear to a lot of people.
The waiting theme, there are many people who will be saying, what is the point of this massively fast vaccine rollout, more doses given than the entirety of the European Union, we learnt today, when we all have to wait so long, 4 months to this June date, 118 days, as the newspapers are saying. Do you think people understand, actually, that not everybody is vaccinated, that vaccines aren't 100% effective? Nancy, do you think impatience will set in?
I think we're all feeling a little bit impatient now, but actually most of us understand this. And actually, I was speaking to a couple today who were in their 70s, and they were just like, look, we want our son to have it. And he's in his 30s, their daughter's in their 40s, and their grandkids are going back to school. They want to be able to get together safely with everybody, but they understand that them having the vaccine isn't enough for that. And I think most of us are reasonable. We do understand this. We have put up with an awful lot. We've had to, haven't we? So I think the end is in sight, and this is what will keep us going. And it'd be brilliant the day when everybody who wants to have the vaccine, and let's hope that's everybody, has had the vaccine.
Well, chuffed to bits in Sheffield. And Mark Wallace, thank you both very much indeed. Nancy, thank you.